Okay, with the filmmaking team and the balls roll on, the real story of a beautiful game of Skee-Ball with Thaddeus and Kevin, the two directors and creators of the project. Before we get started, this is the documentary, feature documentary based on the book. I think it's your book, correct, on the history of Skee-Ball. When I was 13 years old, which was a long, long, long time ago, back in the 80s, I used to work. There's a place called Maple Leaf Village in Niagara, from Niagara Falls, Ontario, and it was like an amusement park, and I used to run the Skee-Ball, the Skee-Ball
Oh,
place, and it used to be so packed on Fridays and Saturdays. You someone gets a ball and they get a ticket, they get to take the ticket out, and they get these little prizes that aren't worth the quarter that they just spend, but people have fun with it, I guess, right? So
Oh yeah.
that's it.
on this film, I'm like, I want this film to be good because I was very much a champion of this story because of my personal emotional experience, and of course, it's a good film. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's one of the things that we realized after we started doing this. We really wanted to tap into that nostalgia because all of us, my husband, Thad, has grown up on the Jersey, going to the Jersey Shore. I
Yeah.
grew up in the Midwest, but still, people just have they're drawn to the game and it brings so many happy memories.
Yeah.
So it
And I
just
was
seems.
playing it. I was playing it I think in the summertime,
Mhm.
and it's a harder game than I remember.
It is an incredibly difficult game, especially if you try and go for the hundos in the corner.
That's the trick, right? You got to go in the middle. You got to hit the middle, 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 middle.
So
Then you can,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I'm a straight up the middle 40s guy.
yeah.
yeah.
I just, the hundreds, never mind.
It's well, from an analytics standpoint, which we are in analytics world, mathematically, it works out. Like, because you'll hit the level that you need to if you just go for the 40s, right?
Yep.
But everybody's got their own strategy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and we've seen people that are good enough that if they want to hit, three or four hundos in a row, problem. They want to
gotcha.
hit 50, they'll call it, they'll hit the 50.
Yeah.
So real
Yeah,
impressive guys that do this all the
but
time.
that's people who are playing all the time. I'm saying if you're just playing like a couple times a year, right?
Yep,
So
Yeah.
yep. No, we just bumble along and get our 10s and 20s and whatever we can eke out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you guys um like how did you guys collaborate on that? Like, well, how do you guys know each other? How did you guys start collaborating on? I'm just curious about your origin story before we get to the book.
Okay. We're married.
Yep.
Okay. You have different last names, so yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's professional
We
recognition
got
issues,
married fairly late in life. We've been married for what, 25 years, 24 years?
something
Oh,
like that.
congratulations.
Yeah, so um and the real story of how we got started is Thad was trying to make a video that was going to be pretty heavy, a documentary. And I was key to that. My dad was in bad shape. And so I said, look, I got to shelve this for a while. And he's sitting there playing Skee-Ball on his
Okay.
iPhone. He
Okay.
said, well, I could probably do a 10-minute video about the history of Skee-Ball. Somebody's got to have written a book. And I'm like, great, that's great. You'll get back into the video thing and all. Well, that was in 2009,
No, 2011.
2011.
Yeah. And
Okay.
Yeah,
what ensued was 5 years of research
yeah,
and then another year to write the first book.
yeah. And that's this book, 400 pages. It's a tome. He mostly did a huge amount of research, archives that nobody else really has had access to, private archives and whatnot, as well as you'll see in the movie. But then we decided we were always going to do a video or a documentary.
And
Movie film, yeah.
It just grew.
and grew, and now it's done.
Yeah.
So
So we
what was
moved
your
it.
experience before writing books? Like, have you guys written a book before? Either of you written are authors in the past?
Um, we both have interesting academic backgrounds and
You're a
we've done
PhD, right,
things.
Kevin? You're
Yeah. So I did a dissertation. Once you write a dissertation, it's like, oh yeah, do a film. It's going to take 5 years, no problem. It's just scale,
yeah.
right? It's going to get done. So, yeah, Thad's actually got a background in the arts and he's a computer scientist. So he's got a lot of technical as well as creative background.
Yeah.
And I've got the writing background, so I just let him do the creative stuff and
And the research.
the research, and I write.
I mean,
So it worked really well.
I've spent a fair amount of my computer science career writing, but it's all technical writing. And I do other writing, but mostly you never see it.
He does some terrific creative writing, but it's binary. It's just amazing. So he's written some really key parts to the book. And so if they look really creative and really evocative, that's him. That's him. So
Gotcha. And
Yeah.
then Kevin, you like your name is so infamous. I'm assuming 99.9% of the people think you're a boy
Yep. Or
before
trans now. That's a big one I get. Yeah.
and
It's like,
then but there's a story. I'm not going to say what the story is because I want people to Google your name and they can figure it out themselves. But
Yeah.
there's a story behind it, I guess, right?
there is, yes.
It's a good story too.
It is a good story.
If you look online, I still have the story of my name up on my personal web pages from the 90s. So
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so basically, so you guys decided to collide. So if you're married, that's one relationship. I always say that that's like marriage is, not. It's usually it's great, but sometimes it could be complicated. Sometimes it's hard to kind of navigate a marriage because you've been with someone for a long time, and then add writing a book to the marriage. So
yeah.
that's two relationships going on at the same time. So how was that for the
And
marriage?
we're also parents to a couple of cats.
Couple, okay.
Yeah. No, well,
So Kevin and I are really well matched. We have a complementary set of skills. In fact, I've got a friend who says we've ruined marriage for everybody because we make it look really easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And frankly, writing the book, while it was work, there was very little disagreement once we had the outline, and the outline probably took us 5 days.
Yeah.
And there was stupid stuff that happened. Like I didn't like chapter 1, and Kevin said,
fine, do better
"Fine,
here."
rewrite it." And I went out in the kitchen, I sat down, drank a glass of wine, and rewrote chapter 1, which I think was 3 pages.
I said,
And
understand that when we first got married, just before we got married, I was living in a townhouse. We needed a bathroom in the basement, and it was just a rough in. And neither of us are at all professionals, but we do home improvement. We put in the bathroom together from breaking the walls and dropping the plumbing and everything else, and tile
Gotcha.
and installing the toilet. And it had to be done by Thanksgiving. So we were on a very tight schedule.
Yep.
And we were both working full time.
Yeah.
So if we get along through that, we figured getting married would be fine. Nothing's going to be worse than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Partner.
Sorry, what was that?
As a best friend and partner.
Yeah, that's 100%. That's what makes a good marriage, right? You have your best friends first, right?
Yep.
Okay, so you guys decided to do this, but but then also at the same time spending all that time and energy on one project, right? Like that sometimes that can get a little bit stale, or it's a grind. Let's be honest, right?
We quit 3 or 4 times. Fortunately,
Gotcha.
we didn't quit together, right? Dad would go, "I'm done. I'm shutting my computers down in my office. It's over." A week later, we're back at it.
COVID was the biggest challenge, though, I think, because that put the project into a major tailspin, and the recovery was we had to do a complete rewrite. Because the original version before that was heavily interview driven. And since we didn't know when we could go back out to do interviews.
So we rewrote, I wrote the screenplay and rewrote it. I think we figured about 5 times, at least 3 of them for very good reasons. And it improved it. And I learned screenwriting as a skill.
Oh, so this is the book, because the book was done in 2017, right? You're talking about like getting the film
Book is
done.
2016.
Oh, the paperback is 2017. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The paperback is now. So we wrote the book and published at the end of 2016. By 2018, we had a script. It was way too long.
It was 3.5 hours.
Right. It was not viable. So we went back and we reworked that. And by the time we were ready to do interviews with it, COVID hit. You're right, we couldn't do that. And then we rewrote the script again without interviews. And then we finally, I think 2022, put that one in front of some people and they went, where's the interviews? So I went, fine, we hired a crew to go out and just get the interviews from the people on the East Coast in various places and get the B-roll and whatnot. And I think that really made the film.
Yeah.
So,
Gotcha. Yeah, because you need that emotional context, right? Like in there's some besides a voiceover, someone needs to explain the history without you telling them from like a godlike source, I guess.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think they did a great job. I mean, just being evocative, telling us the important stuff, and they're not constantly listening to our narrative.
Yeah, exactly.
So really, really great.
And how did you find the interview subjects?
So John Hepp, Tom Keels, and Pat Martinelli were all subject matter experts that worked on the book with us. And they knew there was a documentary in the works, and so we went back to them. Ed Pullman of Ed's Funcade, Kevin found when she was looking for somebody who could talk about what it was like to be in the arcades.
Yeah.
And Ed is just really awesome, and he's really fun.
And then Jerry found us.
Yeah, Jerry Christensen found us, and originally
He read the book.
Yeah.
And he said, gee, I've got a really old Skee-Ball alley.
Yeah, and he originally didn't want to be in the documentary. It took a little bit of cajoling, and
that was our East Coast crew was run by Kathy Berry, and she's fabulous. She used to teach elementary school, and she can get anybody to do anything. She's just amazing, and her crew is too. So
and
she talked Jerry.
Yeah, she talked Jerry into it, and she actually got him in a very good place where he was just talking to her, and it went off so well that when I got the footage, I sat down, looked at it, and went, well, I know what the opening of the documentary is. And then he had this little snippet, and that became the end piece. So we had this nice bookend with him opening and closing the documentary. And then we weaved some other stuff around that.
And I think that Jerry's wife also, he said, yeah, my wife said, if you don't do this, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. It's an opportunity. So, thank God for those folks.
Yeah, 100%. And where did you grab all the like stock footage? How did you find all that information, all that stuff?
So if you mean like the vintage footage?
Yeah, 100%. The videos, the black and white photographs, yeah.
Okay, so the World War I footage came from National Archives, and the segment with Esty in it getting the Distinguished Service Cross, nobody's ever seen.
We stumbled across it. He calls me in and says, that's Esty, right? And we go and we look at our other pictures of Esty and our other information. We're going, that's him.
So that was some of it. Some of it came from newspaper clippings and billboard from the early 1900s. And then Philadelphia Toboggan Coasters Inc. has an archive of material related mostly to roller coasters. But since they bought Skee-Ball from Wurlitzer, they also have a huge amount of material from the short period that they were involved. Plus, and then, of course, Vineland Historical and Antiquarian Society was where the inventors' papers came from. And both Tom Rebbe out at Philadelphia Toboggan Coasters and the folks at Vineland Historical gave us complete unfettered access to everything. And so we were able to comb through tons of material to get to where we were. And I cannot tell you how much stuff is sitting on the floor that we couldn't use because it's just constraints.
So how did, like, from a financial standpoint, you just have to pay for certain footage and certain videos and
So the stuff we got from Critical Past you pay for. It's basically a one-time fee. When you're dealing with archives, it depends on the archive. Some archives charge by the piece.
Some
Some-
charge by the use.
Yeah,
you know.
and some don't charge at all
Yeah, so it can be $0 to say $300 for.
Gotcha,
for one piece.
gotcha. So it's not extraordinary, but it's still like there, it's still like a part of the budget. It's a big part of the budget,
Oh, it
right?
is a huge part of the budget. I think I'd have to go back and look. I think it's about a quarter of the budget was stock footage.
That's
Licensing.
not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a big part of your film, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
okay, so how does, like, explain to me how it works? Like, say I buy an arcade, right? And say I buy the arcade and I'm like, I'm gonna do Skee-Ball. I'm gonna have Skee-Ball machines. Can I just do it myself, or do I have to like how does it, like, if I do that, does someone own the patent for it? Then they get a certain percentage of my sales? How does it work?
So they own the trademark. The patents are long gone. That was
Okay.
early on. And so you basically go buy the alleys.
From
and
Baytech.
You run the alleys.
Yeah. Baytech is
Just-
the current owner of the
So
trade.
Maytag right now owns Skee-Ball.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would just have to buy from the Skee-Ball machines from Maytag.
Yep.
Or you can get them used from other arcades, or you can,
That's it. There's nothing else I need to do.
No.
Yep, that's it.
Gotcha.
It used to be much more complicated.
Sure.
It used to be, there used to be fees, and you were only allowed to have you were allowed to own a certain portion of the real estate area where Skee-Ball alleys could be. This is early on.
Yeah.
Mm.
And you were restricted from using them anyplace else or moving them or whatever. And that all kind of went by the wayside. There's actually a very interesting court case about that. That is still in use. It's still being
Yeah. No, I
developed.
just I find it fascinating, right? Because it's like, when when was bowling invented? So bowling was
Bowling
invented in the
actually-
1800s?
Well,
Bowling, I believe, predates Skee-Ball
Yeah.
by a significant period. It's in the 1800s. I'd have to go look. But I mean, the original name of Skee-Ball was actually Skee-Ball Bowling, which caused Simpson no end of trouble, especially with the patent office. And we go into some of that at the beginning of the film, where they keep rejecting his patent claims, and one of them has to do with, in a bowling games, the pins are the scoring indicator, but Skee-Ball has no pins, and so it was the letter exchange around all of that is,
we only show a little bit.
yeah, is really interesting.
Gotcha. Because so if you go to a bowling alley now,
Mhm.
it's so different from what it was like when I talk about the 80s, like it was in the 80s. It's like everything's electronic now. There's no balls, don't get caught. Remember, the balls used to get caught in the and then you'd have to get some 50-year-old kid to come out and get it out of the system, whatever, right? That, or there was a person in the back who was like making sure all the pins were set. So you got a whole new kind of renaissance of the bowling alley.
Yep.
And then Skee-Ball kind of reminds me of like that, in the sense where it's like every time I go to Skee-Ball, it seems to be the same. There hasn't been this sophistication, kind of like computer kind of generated kind of push, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
It's still
make
the lever, you know what I mean? Like, it's still pretty basic.
Yeah. Well, it's a remarkable design that has been able
It
to
is.
change very little over
Yeah.
the course.
I would say the biggest change you see is the scoring indicator. It went from
Sure.
purely mechanical to now it's electronic, and
Yeah.
it went through a phase where they used light bulbs to look like LEDs, but they weren't really LEDs.
Yeah. But all that is sort of peripheral to the
Yeah.
fundamentals of the
I mean,
game.
the game is still, you roll the ball up the alley, there's a bunch of cups that, it can go into and be captured, and you get an instant readout of the score through whatever means.
Yeah.
And that's been the way it's
Ever
always
since it
been
was-
like that since 1908. So,
But the lane needs to be like maintained, I guess, right?
yeah. It's they used to use a cork, what they called a cork carpet, so that the noise, there was less noise, because noise in arcades was a major headache for people who live nearby. And now they're using something, they still call it a cork carpet, but it's some other kind of material that basically stands in for the original stuff.
Yeah. So it's still there. Like if you go to a carnival, like I said, like it's like an arcade, it's always there. It's just like a staple.
Yep.
Yeah. And there are games that are 40 or 50 or 60 years old that are still being played in some of those carnivals, especially.
Yeah. And it used to be a penny, then it was a nickel, I guess now a quarter, now it's $1. It's $1 in Niagara Falls at least. I don't know where it is anywhere else.
Yeah, it depends where you go.
Yeah.
I think in San Francisco it's like 7 games for $5, or you pay $1 a game. It depends.
Yeah. Well,
But
with the exchange rate, it's the same. Yeah. So
That's right.
so so basically, like, and then I love the sequence where you kind of show the architecture of the Skee-Ball. That's a really great. It's a really interesting because you got like so where were all these? You got these are archive footage of the architecture. You found them in the archives.
So we have photographs of old Skee-Ball arcades.
And we also have blueprints, the original blueprints that were published by the first Skee-Ball manufacturers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you, John W. Harper's parts list has a few flaws in it.
And Thad knows that because he did the animation of those alleys.
Yeah, I built the 3D models from scratch, and I can tell you, fitting the puzzle pieces together, Harper was winging it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cutting and adjusting is way easier in wood than it is in bits.
Well, think about all the great inventions of our time. A lot of them they're just winging it, right? So.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is not a criticism. This is an observation about what it took to build that thing. And Harper built a lot of the alleys by himself. He would occasionally get Simpson to come help him, but when they were out at Auckie's place in Chestnut Hill, he went out there to build alleys by himself.
Those were 32-foot alleys.
Yeah, they were
really big
and really heavy.
It just fascinates me, like these like 1909, which when it was invented, how like there's been thousands of these kind of game inventions, hundreds of thousands of games, and then there's these things that just stand the test of time. Maybe it's a little bit of luck, maybe it's something that just emotionally grabs the consumer. Sometimes it's just simple, right? It's not complicated. Anybody can, like a 5-year-old can play this game, a 95-year-old can play this game, right?
I think Jerry sums that up at the end of the film just really succinctly. And I think the other thing that is a really interesting observation is you always think you can do better.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the hook to get you to play the game again, because you know you can do better.
How many perfect games of Skee-Ball have there been? I'm sure there's been lots, but basically.
I have no idea. I know people who can roll perfect games multiple times in a night.
Yeah.
In fact, the scene with Joey Wolf and Elon Futterman at Ed's Funcade, Joey had rolled 2 perfect games and Elon had rolled 1. And that was just really fun interview footage, we thought.
Yeah.
But if you use the bowling kind of concept, they have to do 10 games, 10 lanes. So a perfect game would be 10 games. That makes sense.
That's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. Someone must have done it.
I don't know of anybody, but we can put that out to some of the folks that play this routinely for prize money.
Is it better to be left-handed or right-handed to play? Or it doesn't matter?
Ooh, that's a good question, because I'm a lefty.
So am I, yeah.
There's nothing intrinsic in the game that'd make it more easier, that should make it easier.
Well, I'll tell you one disadvantage of being left-handed if you're in a really cramped arcade is if everybody is like this, and you're like this, you start bumping into people.
Well, it's their disadvantage too, right? So the person that you're beside,
So yeah,
that'd be interesting. It'd be really interesting to see how many champions are left-handed. but
Actually,
that's
you
an
know, I
issue.
never thought about this, but I should go back and look at the footage and see if anybody's rolling left-handed in the tournament.
Yeah. No, it would just be because there's a certain curve. Like you have a natural. They say you have a natural curve when you're lefty.
Mhm.
You kind of like when you do like even with bowling, right? I have a natural curve
Yeah,
when I bowl, so I can if I find the arrow, if I find the sweet spot, I can just start bowling spares and strikes if I keep playing after a few frames, right?
yeah, I know that
Yeah.
feeling. I used to bowl
Yeah.
and I had a really wicked curve.
Yeah,
It would go out to the side of the gutter and rattle around like it was going to drop, and then it would just
exactly.
come back in.
But as soon as you find your like find yourself, I guess, or find your curve, then you can that's like the same with skee ball,
Yeah.
but then
Well,
that's like $100 later. I'll figure it out like
That's
$100
right.
later,
yeah,
right? So
yeah. I mean, it's once you once you find a groove on an alley, you can keep going for a while, but finding the groove on that particular alley might take time, which is why in tournaments they frequently have you play more than one alley so that you don't find
that's fair.
interesting things
Yeah.
to capitalize on.
Oh, that's more than fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's not like it's like they're shoe shining the thing like every time, right?
Yep.
So what's next for you guys? Are you guys gonna make another film? Are you gonna write another book?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
So, the ones that just kind of fall out of this is a bio of Joseph Forster Simpson, who's the inventor of the game. There's a lot of richness in his life, just as this forgotten
Yeah.
inventor from Vineland. And so we're going to probably do a short book about that and try to do a film. We're experimenting with ideas for how to actually tell that story.
Yeah.
Right.
He was a serial inventor, and the only invention that had any longevity was Skee-Ball, but the problem with Skee-Ball was he let go of it just before it started to like take off.
Yeah.
And so he never saw the financial rewards. He invented another game which didn't really go anywhere, and there's a story around that.
Yeah, and he'd come up doing inventions. That's how he saw himself. So
Yeah.
really interesting from a variety of human perspectives
Yeah.
as well.
Sounds like a great movie. Like a great
Yeah.
like
Oh,
live action movie.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, we've
So
talked
that,
about that too. The other story we want to tell is Espy. He spent a year or 18 months in France during World War I towards the end as
a pilot,
a pilot.
which we talk about a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a lot more there. Not quite as much as Simpson. So those are two possibilities. The Simpson is for sure. And then we're looking for other opportunities to tell this kind of interesting, compelling, historical
Yeah.
stories about real people. So
Gotcha. The human interest story.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you guys the best of luck. It was great talking to you, and yeah, great. I love this film, and I wish you the best of success with it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank
It's a
you.
pleasure.